welcome to the Supercoach Nuff YouTube channel. In today's video, just going to have a bit of a look at the state of the team post trials, and I guess that awkward couple of weeks before the awkward week, I suppose, before Team List Tuesday, and then obviously the season kicking off next Thursday. So I've gone sort of back to my original team as I left it at the end of the last video. And since that time, I've played around with quite a few different options. Might discuss a couple throughout the video, but I guess just to sort of quickly summarise or give away the ending, it's sort of be, well, it's ended up where it began. So um, I guess the main sort of theme I've been looking at is where the value is, trying to make the value that way. Because yeah, I know there's a temptation to bring in some guns in the centre wing. A couple of them look like they've got really good draws, but there's just so many cheap options available. So that's why I guess I've scrolled down to the bottom of the list here. Kicking off with Tedesco and Travojevic. They haven't changed all pre-season, and they're not going to change anytime soon. That little injury thing should disappear after Team List Tuesday. Tommy Turbo will be ready to go for round one. So yeah, they're locked in and are going to stay that way. The centre wing. So as I said, I did originally have a couple of these guys out of there. And trying to fit in some guns like Val Holmes, Nick Meaney. So a couple of goal kicking centre wings. Nick Meaney's obviously playing fullback for the Storm, which is a hot position. Kicking goals, soft draws, the works, but when it shakes down, it's just all about the value. So I have sort of made a couple of changes to my side off the back of the trials, and I guess based on form, Tyrell Sloan is gone, along with Hayes Perham. So I guess it's fair to say that they're probably going to play better than what they have in the trials. But I think there's just a couple of better value options. So um, the two players that I'm bringing in, one being William Warbrick. So he looked pretty good on the wing for the Storm in the trial. I watched. It looks like he's going to beat Dean Aramere for a spot. And a man, bottom dollar cheapie, playing at a club like the Melbourne Storm, particularly with that soft early draw. He's definitely got to get a look in if he's named for round one. The other one, and this comes off the back of the positional updates today, but Taruva, the Penrith winger. So I say winger because he's probably going to take Taylor May's spot out with the knee injury for the season, which is a bit flat. He may end up playing right wing, so Brian Tyree can go back on the left. Um, but even then, again, very cheap player playing for what is a strong attacking team. Um, you've got to include someone at that price point, um, which may be a bit contradictory to what I'm about to say next. But looking at the halves, Matt Burton, Josh Schuster, going to keep them in place. But I guess the first big change that I'm going to make to my team is Nathan Cleary is gone. So I originally sort of was thinking maybe Hines could be the sacrificial lamb. However, he just looked way too good against the Bulldogs on the weekend in the trial. And I think, as much as I just said about Penrith being a good attacking team, I think they're going to miss Api Coruscant at hooker. So I'm sort of happy to fade Nathan Cleary, um, and you'll see why in a minute. But I have had to get Tanner Boyd out of the hooker position, so he's going to slot in as the second halfback if I select it properly. There we go. All right, and obviously Hines is the starter all day long. Um, yeah, so the reason why I guess I was wanting to make this move as well um, is because I'm a bit scared of not having Harry Grant. Um, the things that we just talked about, Melbourne Storm, soft draw, um, don't necessarily have the experience in the forward pack driving them forward, but Craig Bellamy is usually pretty good at finding some diamonds in the rough and getting them up and about. So, um, yeah, I think there is some cheap options. Like obviously, Josh Hodgson is one way to make some quick cash in the hooker position. Um, but just worried about points, and I think the first particularly month, Harry Grant could easily outscore Nathan Cleary, just while Penrith sort of find their feet with the sort of missing players in their side. Um, so that brings us to the forward pack. So there's quite a few players that I'm sticking with. Um, I'll just try and get the positioning right. Doesn't quite fit in the screen properly, but that's okay. Um, so I should have mentioned Brandon Smith's locked in too in the hooker position along with Harry Grant. Um, so going through um, the changes that I've made, Safidi is going to be out along with Murdoch Masilla in the front row. And I'm going to go with Cohen Hess and then Big Stefano. I guess the thinking behind this is I guess we're going through the full front row there. So Joey Tarpany, points per minute beast, looks like he's going to play lock, which would suggest maybe a few more minutes, which would suggest a few more points. So yeah, happy to have him there in the front row one position. Cohen Hess is a bit of I guess, an unsexy pick, but it looks like he's going to play 80 on an edge for the Cowboys, who again soft draw to start the season. He's every chance of jagging a try. Although I've got Nanai in the side too, so and this will become a bit of a recurring theme as we go through the second row. Sean Kepi looks like he's due for more minutes, going to play lock for Manly. Um, so I guess maybe not too dissimilar to the role he was currently playing with Jake Travojevic still playing in that middle section. And Big Stefano looks like he's going to get the start at the Tigers with Sheensy there now, so happy to get on him. So I think there's a bit of upside with all those guys. A lot of the cheap options, there's not a great deal of upside. Maybe if I have to shuffle some things around on Team this Tuesday, someone like a Mawali from South will get a run, but I can't quite work out how many minutes he's going to get on a consistent basis. So I'm happy to fade him for the time being. Which then brings us to the second row. So, I've shuffled around a few options here. Like I know I've tried to swap Katoa to Loero to try and make a bit more cash, squeeze someone else in. But I guess at the end of the day, we're looking at value and upside. So I think Katoa's a little bit more of an opportunity of getting over the trial line. So I'm going to include him. For Feeder and Nanai, I'm happy enough to keep them. So the changes are going to be with Tommy Gilbert and Tommy Eisenhuth. So unfortunately, Eisenhuth didn't get up for the trial, so it doesn't look like he's a chance of playing. So the cheap option I'm going to bring in his place is Matt Dury. So it looks like Sean Lane's out for a while, which sort of opens up another second row spot at the Eels. So you'd think he'd start at least the first 3 weeks until Madison comes back. We can always reassess. But a cheap option there is going to be good. And then I'm pretty sure with that, I've got enough money to bring in Cam Murray. So, um, I guess I've been big on Ola Kawatu from Manly. But South's having a bit of a tougher draw to start the season. I think that means big minutes for Murray. and he can find his way over the try line. Part of the reason why he's one of the most expensive second rowers in the game. So I'm sort of leaning on maybe a bit of a higher floor for Cam Murray. But yeah, I guess would love to have Ola Kawatu in the side. He could even end up coming in over Dave Fafita, to be honest. That's probably the sticking point at the moment. And I mean, if I do need to free up a bit of cash, that would free up $7,000, not that much. um, and yeah, so I think that's sort of where we're sitting. As I said in the previous iterations, I've cut out a couple of these guys like Murray and Fafita, and even Joey Tarpany, and had super cheap front row to free up some money in the centre wing. But it doesn't make sense in the long run when these guys are all going to potentially make a fair bit of cash. The guys in the front row not so much. So yes, I guess it's a long-winded way of saying not much has really changed. If you really look at it, just a couple of the cheapies in the centre wing, a couple of changes or subtle changes, I suppose, in the forward pack, and then just swapping Nathan Cleary for Harry Grant. Um, but yeah, I guess that's how the team's sitting at the moment. Um, might try and put out another couple of videos later in the week, just looking at maybe some of the ownership and where that sits. Like I said, it's a bit of a flat week with no trials or anything, just waiting for next Tuesday. So yeah, I guess in the meantime, feel free to comment your thoughts on my team or your team. Like, subscribe to the channel, all that sort of good stuff. And other than that, I'll catch you in the next one.